Павла и Александра в детском доме звали братьями. Кровного родства у них не было, попали в учреждение в разное время, но буквально с 2 лет начали играть вместе и так до самого выпуска поддерживали друг друга. Про Пашу было известно, что его родители были алкоголиками. Однажды организовали очередную вечеринку. Ребенка к бабушке отправили, чтобы не мешал, а по пьяной лавочке угорели. Что касается Саши, то его родила мать-одиночка. Понимала, что со своими проблемами вырастить мальчика не сможет. Не выдержав тягот, ушла из жизни по своей воле. Братья были еще те хулиганы, часто устраивали забавные розыгрыши, но бывало попадали в неприятные ситуации. Мальчик по имени Петя задевал Сашу. То игрушку отнимет, то вещи его спрячет, то обзовет. Саша всегда избегал драк, но тут не выдержал, хотя заведомо чувствовал, что слабее. И действительно, вскоре он лежал на лопатках. Но тут подбежал Паша и ответил за друга. Ох, и досталось братьям от воспитателей. Однажды парней в подростковом возрасте отпустили погулять. Они побежали на рынок. Много сладостей увидели, а денег нет. Паша подбил брата совершить кражу. Парней простили, как детдомовцев, но слух об их поступке дошел до руководства. И снова нагоняй. Но парни друг на друга стрелки и не думали переводить. Был еще один случай, который ребята запомнили на всю жизнь. Как-то приезжал к ним один богатый помощник детдома. За глаза его звали Ангелом. Почти 2 метра ростом, но такой добрый и душевный, что все дети тянулись к нему, а не за подарками. Сильнее всех его вниманием завладели Паша и Саша. Так ему ребята понравились, что в следующий раз он привез мальчишкам наручные часы, одинаковые, с кожаными ремнями. Потом начались увлечения девушками. Вкусы парней совпадали, но решали этот вопрос мирно, один всегда уступал. Воспитатели волновались, выйдет ли из ребят что-то путное. Они выросли даже внешне похожими, темноволосые, кореглазые, лишь бы не свернули на неправильную дорожку. А тут и время подошло, братьев призвали в армию. Они не сопротивлялись, явились в военкомат одновременно. Комиссия одобрила обоих, абсолютно здоровы. Пашу направили в ВДВ, а Сашу в морфлот. Распределение ребятам понравилось. Обещали, что не забудут, будут писать друг другу, и в знак своих слов обменялись часами. Служба есть служба, суровые будни лишь иногда разбавлялись различными приколами и шутками. Саша и Паша держали обещания, часто друг другу писали. Обоих на службе отмечали как исполнительных. По окончании срока и Сашу, и Пашу просили остаться сверхурочно. Паша чувствовал усталость от службы, поэтому отказался сразу. Очень ему хотелось на гражданку. Саша же в последнем письме написал: «Хочу устроиться на рыболовецкое судно. Море, как и прежде, меня манит. Сейчас зачитываюсь о похождении пиратов и корсаров. Сделаю все, чтобы осуществить мечту». Паша и не сомневался в друге, поэтому не удивился новому письму с подтверждением его трудоустройства. Сам же Павел в первую очередь решил навестить родной детский дом. Не нашел любимого преподавателя Игоря Константиновича. Оказывается, он уволился, но адрес ему дали. Парень нашел 5-этажку, в которой проживал бывший воспитатель, набрал домофон, и тот без проблем его впустил. На пороге по-отечески обнял и предложил пройти в его маленькую, но весьма уютную квартиру. Игорь Константинович, разливая по чашкам душистый чай, начал: «Вижу, Паша возмужал. Есть ли какие-то планы на жизнь?» «Да пока никаких». «Слушай, ну парень-то ты толковый. Есть у моего сына в столице свое дело, весьма перспективное. Занимается он автомастерской. Езжай к нему, работой обеспечит, я поговорю. Да и в зарплате не обидит. Глядишь, и комнату снимешь в общежитии, а женишься, квартиру дадут». Паша подумал минуту и согласился. Столица приняла его приветливо. Он засматривался на архитектуру Москвы и на местных красавиц. С работой все было нормально, быстро освоился. Сын Игоря Константиновича его хвалил и ни разу не пожалел, что взял. Однажды в мастерскую заехала «Лада-девятка», а за рулем симпатичная девушка. Сказала, что машина периодически глохнет, что с ней не знает, не понимает. Паша успокоил девушку, мол, все починим, все посмотрим. А сам засмотрелся в ее серые глаза с густыми ресницами. А фигура-то какая выточенная. «У такой точно кто-то есть», – подумал парень. Но все-таки решил, была не была. Как приехала забирать машину, поблагодарила его, а он телефончик и взял. Она представилась Леной. Уже на следующий день пригласил на свидание. Девушка с готовностью согласилась. По голосу было слышно, что звонок ее обрадовал, а значит, симпатия взаимная. Лена повела Пашу погулять по набережной Москвы-реки. Шли, махали катерам и теплоходам, смеялись. А вечером решили зайти в кафе, которое попалось по пути. Оказалось, что вегетарианское, но Паша с Леной решили, что останутся, и с интересом попробовали несколько блюд из меню. Второе свидание прошло в ресторане за бутылкой вина. Паша смотрел в горящие глаза Лены и понял, эту девушку он никуда не отпустит, у них все будет серьезно. После конфетно-букетного периода сделал предложение, причем на крыше многоэтажки. Выглядело это очень романтично. Лена сразу сказала «да». Свадьбу решили сделать не пышную, пригласили всех своих. Паша позвонил Саше, сказал, как рад был бы его видеть на торжестве. «Приезжай, с моей стороны только ты да пара друзей из автомастерской. Жену мою Лену увидишь». «Конечно, братиш, как ты мог во мне сомневаться?» Саша сдержал свое слово и подъехал к новенькому ЗАГСу. На церемонии бракосочетания глаз не мог отвести от невесты. Длинные темные волосы были распущены по плечам, на голове диадема и пышное белое платье. Он сердечно поздравил новоиспеченную пару. Хорошо погулял в ресторане, но и про подарки заморские не забыл. Среди них была вяленая соленая рыба. На последнюю Лена налегать стала через несколько месяцев. Паша сразу понял, что беременна. Сделали тест, подтвердилось. А еще через пару недель можно было определить пол ребенка, и они пошли на УЗИ вдвоем. На экране ничего не разобрать, а врач и говорит им: «Вам крупно повезло, у вас тройня, 2 мальчика и девочка». Лена побелела и переспросила, что сказал врач. Паша тут же ее взял за руку и успокоил, всех, мол, вырастим. Но на выходе из медицинского центра Лена даже заплакала. «Но ведь я сама с воды на хлеб перебиваюсь. На руках мама больная, с инвалидностью. Но куда нам 3?» «Не переживай, не говори так. Дети всегда счастье. Я и маме твоей помогу. И ни в чем мы не будем нуждаться. Надо будет, на 2-ю работу пойду». Пошло счастливое время. Время ожидания малышей. После автосервиса Паша с Леной ежедневно гуляли в парке. Планировали жизнь, фантазировали о большом доме, а не о квартире, где сейчас ютились. На 8-м месяце Лене предложили лечь на сохранение. Мало ли, тройняшек ждет. Бывают роды преждевременные. И будущая мать согласилась. Действительно, малыши запросились на белый свет раньше, а потуги не шли. Лена мучилась полночи, пока не отвезли на Кесарево. Плакала даже, так ей самой хотелось родить малышей. Но все забыла, как только их поочередно положили ей на грудь. Паша плакал от радости, когда она прислала ему на смартфон фотографию малышей. Теперь он точно был готов сделать все, чтобы они были счастливы. После выписки Павлу подвернулось предложение для подработки таксистом. Решил попробовать. Деньги выходили неплохие, но стал уставать на 2 работах, тем более работал почти без выходных. В субботу вечером, как обычно, поехал развозить людей. Самое хлебное время. У Лены сердце защемело. «Останься сегодня, вон какой усталый». «Завтра отдохну, не беспокойся, все будет хорошо». В эту ночь Паши не стало. Лене позвонили и сообщили, что заснул за рулем. Как она рыдала. Все соседи слышали. Винила себя в том, что не остановила, и не могла поверить в случившееся. Надо было сообщить его единственному другу, Саше, и, конечно, заняться организацией похорон. Александр примчался первым же рейсом. Лене больно было на него смотреть, так мужа напоминал. Он подставил ей плечо, а она рыдала без остановки. У самого Саши сердце разрывалось от боли и за друга, и за его семью. Мысленно он дал себе клятву помочь ей с 3 детьми, которым на тот момент было пару месяцев от роду. На 3-й день состоялись похороны. Детей Лена оставила с подругой и мамой. Сама же она не могла смотреть на любимого. Бледная, она шаталась и едва не падала в обморок. После поминок Саша сообщил, что остается в Москве, чтобы ей помогать. Она тогда плохо соображала. Второй раз он сообщил ей эту новость на следующий день. Лена была в шоке. «Неужели ты действительно решил остаться? Ну а как же море?» «Я уже позвонил в Новороссийск, уволился. Море подождет. Мне важно, чтобы с вами все было в порядке. Это мой долг, в первую очередь, как единственного близкого человека Паши». Александр быстро нашел работу в городе. Устроился товарным представителем, снял квартиру рядом с Леной, чтобы в свободное время ей помогать. Хотя без моря было тяжко, и он чувствовал себя как сухопутная крыса. Но делать нечего, работал на износ. На выходных и по вечерам гуляли, он помогал, поднимал большую коляску. После прогулки обычно заходили в продуктовый магазин и покупали на его средства все необходимое для Лены и детей. Саша понимал, что в нем просыпается интерес к Лене не только как к другу, но и как к женщине, но не знал, как сделать первый шаг. А Лена тоже чувствовала, что начинает увлекаться другом покойного мужа, но понимала, что это неправильно сближаться так быстро после трагедии. Пока решили дружить. Однажды Лена пожаловалась на усталость, и он так тепло ее обнял. Им не надо было больше слов. Они поняли, что хотят быть вместе. Детям к тому моменту уже было по году. Внимательная мать стала замечать, что мальчик Федор стал испытывать одышку при движении. Тут как раз надо было проходить диспансеризацию. У Лизы и Мити все было хорошо, а вот у Феди, как и подозревала Лена, обнаружили проблемы с сердцем. Врач успокаивал, можно сделать операцию, и мальчик будет жить долго и счастливо. Вот только государство на нее денег не дает. Лена впала в отчаяние. Где взять деньги? Они и так не шикуют, хотя Саша из сил выбивается, чтобы их обеспечить. Она знала, что его друзья нашептывали ему: «Зачем тебе такая, с прицепом? Только на нее и работаешь. Мол, молодой ты еще, найдешь себе девушку получше». Лена пришла из поликлиники, а Саша уже дома после работы. Видит, что ее все трясет, а дети, чувствуя настроение мамы, плачут. Он испуганно спросил: «Что случилось? На тебе лица нет». «Пойдем на кухню, все расскажу». Лена отвела детей в детскую и настроилась на серьезный разговор. «У Феденьки проблемы с сердцем. Вот заключение. Все поправимо, но операция стоит огромных денег». Саша усадил Лену на стул и достал для нее валерьянку. «Погоди отчаиваться. Послушай, мы обязательно найдем эти средства. Ты же помнишь, я все обещания выполняю». Пошел брать кредит. Отказали. Затем Саша задумался о волонтерах. Почти всю ночь не спал. Все думал, как можно организовать сбор средств. Хорошо, что на следующий день был выходной. Наутро Сашу осенило. Надо открыть свой блог. Люди почитают их историю, он расскажет про болезнь Федора, и неравнодушные обязательно найдутся. Проснувшись, Лена увидела, что ее любимый сидит за ноутбуком. Объяснил, как хочет решить проблему с операцией. Она лишь пожала плечами. Пусть попробует. Саша во всех красках написал о своей жизни, о дружбе с Пашей, о детдоме и закончил рассказ о Федоре. К его удивлению, первые откликнулись на следующий день. На электронный кошелек пришла небольшая сумма, но ведь это только начало. Он начал размещать фотографии из жизни тройняшек. Через неделю у него на кошельке висела сумма, равная его ежемесячной зарплате. Но все равно это была только малая часть от стоимости. А вскоре Саше пришло рекламное предложение на солидную сумму. Потом еще одно. Семья не могла нарадоваться своему счастью. Лену и Сашу с детьми начали узнавать на улице. Поначалу молодую женщину это смущало, но появилось очень много хороших знакомых. Уже через пару месяцев они отправились на операцию за границу. Успели. Отчет выложили в блоге. Федор словно заново родился. Как раз начал больше ходить, и никакой одышки не было слышно. Братик и сестренка встречали его счастливые. Так как средств теперь в семье хватало, парень ушел с работы, решил основать фонд помощи всем нуждающимся. А заодно и про братьев наших меньших не забыл, занялся волонтерством. Он понял, что хотя страстно любит море, но это занятие ему ближе к душе. А на моря и океаны они и так теперь семьей летали несколько раз в год. За свадьбой Елены и Саши следило 1,5 миллиона человек. Организовали пышное торжество, как в сказке. Митя, Лиза и Федор были одеты как ангелы. Не прошло и полгода после бракосочетания, как Лена приготовилась сообщить Саше радостную новость. В их новеньком 3-этажном доме на 1-м этаже в гостиной она накрыла стол, чтобы сообщить, что в положении. Мужчина, узнав, что в 4-й раз станет папой, был невероятно счастлив. Если вам понравился рассказ, просьба поддержать меня кнопкой палец вверх. А чтобы узнавать о выходе новых интересных историй, при подписке нажмите колокольчик. Всего вам доброго.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my 2nd year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick! What's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1, if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here." "He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, "I'm moving to the sales department soon." If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. "Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it." On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. "Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived." I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. "They look good." "What are you talking about?" "These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one?" As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself. This could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. "Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay?" I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. "Yes, I'm inviting my father." "That's great. I might invite my parents too." I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.